Hello and welcome to the DTC Podcast. I'm Eric Dyck. Today we're reheating the concept of microwave cookery with Anyday founder Steph Chen and her marketing lead Danielle Walsh. We learn about the family business origin of this upstart brand coming from the world's largest cookware dynasty, Meyer. Today's podcast is a deep dive on the power of narrative-driven storytelling and a masterclass on the practical lo-fi tactics that Anyday uses to engage customers and indoctrinate them into the Anyday family. From plain text emails to outrageously long welcome sequences that invite customers to, checks his notes, cook salmon in the work microwave, this podcast clears the air on an appliance that has long been limited to melting butter and popping popcorn. Nuke. Who's there? It's time to learn about Anyday, and on with the show.
We sent a plain text email that made February one of our largest revenue months of the year without a sale. February is like the doldrums of D2C. We were finding ourselves, our margins getting slimmer and slimmer because of supply chain issues. And we were facing this challenge where we had to raise prices in a time where people were already kind of feeling strapped. And we came up with this really great idea to actually kind of pull back the curtain via plain text email, explain the challenges we had been facing, point out that we were about to raise prices and why. So we told people, here's when we're going to raise the prices. You are a valued customer. We want to give you an opportunity to purchase it at a better price. People directly replied to this plain text email saying, oh my God, thank you. Like, amazing that you are so transparent about your struggles and also giving us the opportunity to buy, Anyday at this price. So it was good in two ways, where we brought our audience closer to us by sharing a little vulnerability. And we also drove all this crazy revenue in a time where people are struggling to even hit their baseline.
If you haven't yet used Motion, the creative analytics platform used by top e-com and D2C brands like Fiore, True Classic, The Farmer's Dog, Hexclad, and hundreds more to ship winning ads, here's why you should try it out. Everyone knows that the right creative is the number one lever for success with paid ads. That's how you make money. But consistently shipping new winning creative, you're gonna need your media buyers and your creative teams on the same page. Right now, you're probably spending hours tiring away going back and forth between Google Sheets and your ad platforms and tools, and then spending even more time plugging it all into different decks for the rest of your team. In a perfect world, you could have an elegant way to combine visual assets and performance data so media buyers can save time and creative teams can get the details they need to make great ads all in one place. And that's where Motion comes in. In seconds, you can build powerful visual reports using data from your ad accounts. You can monitor your performance metrics and see your visual assets in the same platform. No need to go back and forth across multiple apps. You'll finally have media buyers and creative teams working together to create and scale your next big winner. If you're ready to learn how the best D2C and e-commerce brands use Motion to ship winning Meta, TikTok, and YouTube ads, book a demo today or start a free trial at motionapp.com/DTC. Even better, Motion offers a monthly subscription plan so you can dodge those annoying annual contracts. Get 50% off your first month when you use the link motionapp.com/DTC on sign up. Steph, Danielle, welcome to the D2C Podcast. I know we've been working alongside each other now for quite a while, so it's super nice to get you both on here. Steph, can you start off by telling us why you built Anyday?
I'm not historically a microwaver. I didn't really grow up with anything related to microwaves. I use the microwave just like probably you do, Eric, like everyone else does, which is that it is a tool that's really good for reheating leftovers and maybe coffee from time to time. That all changed about 3 years ago when we basically stumbled upon this idea that microwaves can do much more than the way that you've been using them in the past, which is it can cook really good, really fast food from scratch. And that sounds like a crazy concept to most people who are just like, what are you talking about? Like, you're going to put salmon in the microwave? Like, what? But it's true. And as long as you have the right tools and cookware, which is Anyday, you can make really, really good food. And it's a truth that nobody else really knows about. And we're society is just starting to find out about that. And we happened to figure this out a few years back and decided that since everyone has a microwave in their kitchen, I think literally 90% of North America has a microwave in their kitchen, we just figured we'd help people make the most of that tool that you already have by allowing you to cook food from scratch in it directly.
It sounds like the script of like an infomercial. Like
I know.
you think you think you understand this thing that's in everyone's home, but you're just scratching the surface of it. And it's not your fault. Society hasn't taught you how to use a microwave properly. It also hasn't given you the right kind of cookware. Everyone in their mind thinks of like the spaghetti leftovers or whatever that stain in the microwave and they're plastic. And so I feel like it's just a perfect setup for this. Like, but wait. It's true. There's a whole other world of microwave
and if
cookery.
you buy now, it's 20% off.
Well, we'll have to include a discount code on the podcast.
No, I'm just kidding. It's totally like, it feels like an infomercial. And I find myself being like, oh my God, this is like the most magical thing. And I'm like using this product. I'm like, I laugh when I use the Anyday sometimes. I'm like, this is like I just made this thing in 3 minutes,
I want to dive more into geeking out on microwave and get into the actual marketing side. But just to take a second too, like you come into cookware really honestly. You have lived in this in the pots and pans cookware environment for a very long time. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So my family's business is called Meyer Corporation, and we make cookware under a bunch of different brands. And we've been in the business for like 50 years. And it's a really like deeply rooted company in the cookware industry. I only joined the family business maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. But you're right. It has been sort of in and around my life for a long time. I think that like one of the deeper takeaways beyond just cookware is that the vibe of entrepreneurialism has been in and around my life since birth. So it feels like not crazy. It feels like achievable to me to be like, okay, yeah, we're going to like start this thing from scratch. And we're going to like convince a whole bunch of people that this is something they should be doing. So it definitely had an impact on me. I think for me, a deeper impact as well has also been, I've been in and around the food industry for a while, experiencing it from a bunch of different angles, both in restaurants, worked with Alice Waters one summer, worked at a food magazine one summer, and the same is true for my team just generally. And so we feel both personally and professionally very entrenched in this idea of like cooking, period, and cooking content. Maybe like that's what we do with our free times. Like we consume cooking and food content, and I think that's important for like any founder of whatever you're embarking into, to be genuinely entrenched in that industry's content so that you know it inside out already.
I'm just curious. So within 4 years of kind of working in the family business, did you have this idea very early on, or was this an idea that you had to specialize in this new line of cookware? How did that kind of come about inside the Meyer organization? And was it difficult to really get everyone on board?
It was difficult. It's similar to the challenge that I have in sometimes getting consumers on board with the microwave. But what we were already working on at the time at Meyer is sort of what the bones of this product that eventually became the Anyday. So we were working on this like high-end glass food storage container that we thought did a really good job reheating food, reheating leftovers, in fact. The difference was some years back, we stumbled upon the microwave piece because actually it was entirely an accident. It was very serendipitous, where one day we were like, hey, this glass food storage container, can it roast a chicken in the oven? And the answer is yes, it can roast a chicken in the oven. Okay, cool. Like, can it do anything else? Like, what if we put chicken in this thing, and what if we put it in the microwave first, and then we finished it by browning in the oven, and we took it out of the microwave after, X number of minutes, and it came out very surprisingly juicy and tender. And we were like, this is a crazy thing that we just did. Like we just put raw chicken in a microwave. But it led us into this really interesting rabbit hole of like, what else can you cook in a microwave? And from there, I discovered that people that I had a lot of respect for in the food industry, David Chang, Mark Bittman, Kenji Lopez, all of these people had come out there and said very positive things about microwave cooking. And I knew that there was a something there to latch onto that other people had not figured out yet. So it was in that moment that we decided to make the transition into from food storage container to microwave cookware. And that bet really did pay off.
I think I saw that David Chang video, and I remember just thinking, like, how punk rock is that? He's literally like, he's making, like, he's first of all cooking craft dinner. He's cooking this, the peasant food or food that, that the common people eat, where he's this high paid chef, and then he's using the microwave like it's no big thing. I remember thinking, like, that guy's punk rock, which is pretty cool to have punk rock cookware. And so Danielle, as the marketing lead, what attracted you to the brand, first of all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think first and foremost, meeting Steph, and she's such a charismatic leader, just generally, and she believed so deeply in this product. Without her conviction, I think I, would have heard microwave cookware and said, yeah, no, thank you. I come from food editorial, so I used to work at Bon Appetit, and I pride myself on being, very, high taste with food, and I know my way around the kitchen, and if I had not seen the product and seen what it could do, I would have kind of just shook my head and said no thanks. But I think it's a combination of Steph and just how incredible the product was. I could see that it had the potential to change lives, truly change lives, or at least change the way people could cook. So that was one of the major things that drew me to it. One other thing too was the emphasis on content. I was so excited because I, up until this point, have been pretty much strictly content from an editorial perspective, and then at some B2C and B2B marketing at a tech company. And so the opportunity to sink my teeth into food content that wouldn't only entertain but also would help sell a product was a really cool challenge for me. So that was very exciting.
How has Anyday changed lives? What specifically is it doing? It's buying. It's funny. I just signed up to Chef's Plate. I think you might have that in the States as well. And it takes, it's 45 minutes cooking every night, where time is at a premium in the evenings once I, get my daughter from school and all these things. But walk me through how Anyday changes, because it will. If you change the way you cook, you change what you cook, you will change your life. But give me some examples of how Anyday cookware changes lives. Steph, as the zealot.
As the zealot, nice. The biggest difference is in the amount of time it takes to cook. And that's both from an active time perspective, like literally your hands are chopping, cooking, stirring, changing the flame on your stove, etc., to the amount of time start to finish, the whole amount of cooking time that it takes when you start cooking to when food is on the table. In the Anyday and in the microwave, you're cutting that time by something along the lines of 60 to 80%. And so, for example, sweet potatoes, if you were to roast them in the oven, it would take, let's say, 45 minutes plus the amount of time it takes to preheat the oven. In the Anyday, you're doing a sweet potato in 7 minutes. So right off the bat, you're just boom. My food is done super, super quickly. And essentially what it's doing is it's just steaming your food, because the Anyday lid traps so much steam that it just turns the whole microwave into a super powered steamer. So time is the biggest one. And that's relevant for everyone. To be honest, that's probably how Instant Pot, that's the core reason why Instant Pot got so big in the first place. And the air fryer, right? People are looking for time and convenience. They want things to be done quickly, and they want it to be hands off. And the microwave is the definition of that. It's you put it in, you press a couple buttons, you press start, and you walk away from the kitchen.
And it's what we were promised in the 80s or 90s. That's what we were promised in the 90s. And it's just, for decades, it didn't deliver. For decades, it just became this thing that people just used on the fringe. So again, I think that's why there's such a great opportunity with the product. And I want to get into the retention, because I know we have a big focus on retention driving things, but I'm curious about top of funnel. Education must be such a part of the advertising of this product, because I think so many people go into it with microwave cookware, the same way you might have, Danielle, when you were thinking about the opportunity. So how are you conquering that top of funnel, and what's the main driver of top of funnel growth for a brand like Anyday, Danielle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so it all starts with storytelling, and there's a big concept in just storytelling in general, which is show, don't tell. And for Anyday, we've seen that is actually an incredible marketing tactic for us. And we've implemented it kind of everywhere that we show up. And one of the major ways that we show up for top of funnel is organic social. Our wonderful marketing director, Lauren, had this idea to really pivot our Instagram presence to focus on reels, which is great for making the algorithm happy, but it also served us in a really wonderful way where we were able to show our product what it was doing best, which is really fast, really good meals. And in the process, we were showing our face. So we were humanizing our team. So, we had that kind of personal connection with our audience. So it was kind of like killing two birds with one stone almost. And then we were able to then transform those reels into ads, into YouTube videos. And the goodness continued from there. So that is absolutely one of the ways that we like to bring people in is showing them what the possibilities are.
I was just telling you about this content meeting that we were having on the D2C side, and I hear it over and over again. This like short form video is the future. It's the way I consume 90% of my video content. It's really cool that you've embraced it. I'm curious, Steph, compared to other companies in the Meyer portfolio, is Anyday also like writing like a new book a little bit? Like when it comes like, were you among the first? Because I can't think of other pots and pans companies that have like a face to it, unless it's like, Gordon Ramsay or a professional chef or something, but actually like humanizing the brand. Were you guys leading the charge within the Meyer family with this kind of marketing?
Definitely. No question. It's both just on the humanizing specifically, but also this like show don't tell period and focusing on the value prop of like what your product does that changes someone's experience of life. As opposed to the features and benefits of the product.
Yeah.
Like we could have gone out there and been like, hey, we've got this awesome microwave cookware. It has a steam trapping lid. It has this thing that blocks the splatters. It's got this vent, da 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 da. But it wouldn't matter at all if you weren't bought into the concept, right? So you have to, like, for us, like, and I think a lot of brands have this same challenge. It's like, you've got to start with the why and like how it changes someone's life. Like Danielle was saying, we see that is true in every single channel. I'd say like the biggest dollar numbers of top of funnel growth do come from paid. So Meta, Google, YouTube in particular. But they all resonate with the same concept, which is where like our marketing strategy originates overall, which is like the show don't tell and make it really, really easy for people to like see what's so great about the product and how it can apply to their lives.
And to connect all the way through, like show don't tell, you could be like, oh, show the product, but it's actually a layer deeper than that. You're actually showing what your life is like when you have 60% less cook time, right? Or that you eat more broccoli, right?
Yeah,
we have an advantage. We have an advantage over other categories because everybody eats 3 times a day, and like the transformation is so evident with cookware. It is not the case with like skincare where you have to kind of wait for the results to come through. So we definitely have an advantage, but like, people should think, okay, what can I show that about my brand that's going to change the way people experience life? It doesn't have to be the results. For a skincare brand, it can say, oh my gosh, I'm like having the most amazing self-care moment before I go to bed. That's the instant gratification you'll get out of a product like that. So, it's less about, here's what the result's going to be, and more about how are you going to feel when you have this product, like right away. And the results will come later. So for Anyday, it's ultimately, I will save more money. I will eat more vegetables. I will save more time and spend more time with my family. And ultimately, like, you strengthen my relationships. But, that instant gratification is I ate broccoli for lunch and I didn't have to leave my house.
Yeah. Or I cooked salmon in the work office and I didn't get fired.
I tell Eric, please do that. Please do that and let us know what happens, because we've been dying for somebody to cook salmon in their office.
Yeah, I'll do it.
We just haven't gotten to it yet.
I'll do it. That would be the ultimate litmus test for sure. And that would be that would like
salmon office challenge.
Smelling is believing, right? Like in that case, nice. Smell don't tell.
Oh man,
I'm gonna hire you as a copywriter, Eric. That was pretty good.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think it's really interesting, Danielle, that you come from this editorial background. I've seen you do some writing on this idea of storytelling and the value of sort of bringing people with this like innate storytelling ability. And then I feel it's an interesting time because I feel like journalism, what I'm trying to say is I think there's probably a lot of good journalists out there who are looking for work, like given like what's happening on different platforms and things like that. You've got AI rushing in who can check a lot of the boxes when it comes to writing, not necessarily great storytelling that isn't easily identifiable. But talk a little bit about your thought like on your marketing team, talk about your storytelling ability and what you look for when you're hiring marketers in that vein.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the bottom line is if you don't have storytelling, you're dead. Like if you can't tell your story and you can't own your story, there's nothing that is differentiating you from the other guy, period. And so when you hire people who are strong writers, who can come up with a compelling story, can craft a narrative, then you have a huge advantage over other brands and you will see a huge impact with just a little money too. That's the other thing about storytelling is that if you have somebody who can do it really well, your dollar will stretch way farther because, you know, you'll have that content, you'll have that hook, you'll have that, you know, maybe like a cool script and you don't have to pay somebody else to do it. So when I hire people, I really look for strong storytelling skills right off the bat. And I've had a lot of success hiring actually people straight from editorial. So Lauren, who I mentioned earlier, came to us from food editorial, from the kitchen. She had no marketing experience and she had taste and she had excellent storytelling skills. She also had some really cool connections within, you know, press, and she excelled. She revolutionized our organic social. She revolutionized our PR strategy. Hire editors, hire writers. Marketing can be learned. This is actually a big something that is near and dear to my heart because I know a lot of people who are struggling, who are trying to leave editorial. They make excellent marketers. They just need a tiny little bit of onboarding.
I think that's super, super interesting because it can help across so many different axes, whether it's like talking to the board about a new product, whether it's talking to selling the story to some, you know, earned media outlet or whatever. Just that ability to think in narrative has been a huge part, I think, of my career success and what I've been able to do with storytelling on the podcast and everything. And I think you can kind of take it for granted because we're like, oh, we need knob twiddlers and we need people that can look at a spreadsheet and we know people that can throw up ads, but really all of that stuff is just fuel to the fire, and the fire is the story in a lot of ways, right?
Exactly. Storytelling has been, you know, crucial to like human survival. Think about that. You know, when we were back in tribes, people would always gravitate toward the storyteller. That's how we would, you know, have our history. And it is so innate in human nature to gravitate toward that excellent story. And that's the kind of thing that keeps people with you. You can really own and bring your audience closer to you when you have storytelling. But the other thing is that storytelling doesn't matter without strategy. So that's the other thing too. You can't have one without the other. You really need a really close relationship between the two. That's actually something I love about working with Pilot House is because, you know, you guys, Pilot House understands how important that creative storytelling piece is and works with us really closely to add that layer of strategy on top of it so that our ads are top of funnel and our emails are like totally soar, which is really something that I value.
So you have your brand stories, your like high level brand stories in a way, and then those stories filter down into actual tactical ad strategies that echo the same story. Is that kind of how you think of it between strategy and story?
Yeah, absolutely. We have some really productive brainstorms with our team because we do think of like these hooks, you know, as former writers, we know the importance to a hook. And that is kind of like, you know, the classic social media TikTok thing now is like the hook's super important, which is true. And, you know, our ad team helps develop concepts around these hooks and is really fast to iterate on them too, which is really important. Like quick, effective iteration on these like kind of creative concepts that sometimes are super nebulous. Sometimes we'll come to them and say, there's something there about, you know, I saved $100 a week on lunch because of my microwave. And then they'll just take it and run, which is really neat.
It reminds me of the one that Dave always talked about was talking about a thermos company he was working with. And it was basically the hook was like, everyone's jealous of my kid's lunch because he can take a T-bone steak. You know what I mean? And it's just like that idea as a parent, like it connects. It just, it cuts through. So like once you can connect to story or the reason behind a story, it's like everything else gets easier in that funnel. It's like, that's all I want. Okay, sure. Cook in the microwave. Sure. That's what I'll do. And speaking of story, like when it comes to what's the hero product, Steph? Like because I know you have a suite of products in Anyday. What's the hero product that brings people into this world?
The vast majority of people on our site start with a set. So not an individual dish. They recognize that there is use for having multiple pieces and of pieces of different sizes too. So most people actually start with the everyday set, which is a set of 4 different pieces and variety of medium and large and deep and shallow sizes.
And it's funny, we didn't actually mention this, but another big part of this story is the one pot convenience aspect, where you're not changing something from cooking to eating to, well, you're putting on your plate, but then you're storing it in these things as well, which I think, so it's interesting that people are when they buy, they're bought into the system because of the story behind of where it'll take them, I guess, right?
Exactly. And like a big focus of ours is to make sure that people get use out of what they've purchased. Like that's like, if you can, it's, obviously important to convert them, but it's almost maybe just as important to make sure that usage of the product is as maximal as possible. And that's in part what's so great about like the cook serve store thing is you might have been converted on like the save time aspect of microwave cooking, but then once you're actually in it, you're using it, you're like, whoa, wait, this wasn't salient until just now that I'm cooking this thing and then I'm serving it. Whoa. And then I'm storing it in the same dish and then I'm reheating it in the same dish. So that helps that customer journey along a lot as well.
And so that brings us to the post-purchase flow, which Danielle, you were saying you have a fairly long post-purchase flow. And it obviously makes sense, right? Like, because it's like if people are using this, it's also like if they ever have company over, you're getting the opportunity to tell that story again and again. Every time they use it, it has the opportunity for somebody to be like, whoa, you're cooking this in the microwave? Whoa, what are those things in your fridge? Like whatever it is, like the more people use it, the more it's likely to kind of spread out. But Danielle, talk about how you accomplish, the education piece and really getting people to use the products once they buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, like, look out for the Anyday Tupperware Club coming soon, because what you just described is kind of exactly what our dream is our customers end up being like the biggest evangelists of Anyday for us. And that actually is the case. We just want to reward them for it. But our long onboarding process, yes. The first thing that you receive from this, I think, 10 email flow is this really nice, warm welcome from Steph. And it's just a plain text email that essentially underscores why the customer bought the product in the first place, as well as kind of, what to expect in the next couple of weeks, which is we're going to send you guidance and tips for using this product. You are not alone. We are here for you. And we also give them a direct line to our test kitchen, which is actually kind of cool and unique. But yeah, it's 10 emails. It has super high engagement. It's, we start from the easiest to get your mind around, which is broccoli or just like any vegetable. Throwing a vegetable into the microwave doesn't feel super foreign. There are tons of frozen products that tell you to do just that in a plastic bag, which is mind-blowing. So it's really easy to kind of like start that way, just like baby steps. And then we kind of like build on that and kind of like level you up from like, okay, now it's time to do rice, which is also like the most magic recipe. So we kind of start with one that's like, okay, cool. So what? I've done this before. We go on to rice, which truly is game changing. It is, you don't have to wait for anything to boil on the stove. You don't have to worry about timers, missing them or things boiling over.
I fuck up rice all the time still. I don't know how.
I promise you'll never fuck up rice again when you get Anyday. Promise.
That sounds like a hook right there. Never fuck up rice again. Just get a few bleeps in there. I think that
actually might talk about hooks.
Yeah.
But that is once you nail your rice, that's when you're totally bought in. We've seen people use words like, revolutionize and, game changer and convert, like all these like kind of like religious connotation or like words.
Zealot.
It's kind of nuts, but
slightly culty,
exactly.
Honestly.
Culty. There you go. That's what you want.
Yeah, Anyday is a cult. That's actually the big reveal here. But
I'm ready.
No, but what we find, which is amazing, is we bring the customer through this kind of like educational flow, and everything has such high engagement. On average, we have a almost 60% open rate all the way through, and then we have a 7.1 average click rate from a 10 email flow, which is kind of nuts. I think it's, benchmark for the industry is 5% on like much shorter flows. So, the aim is to get the person using this thing so that they can then go tell everybody they know that it is the most magical purchase they've made in the last 10 years, ideally. And also to keep them keep us top of mind. When they see us come into their inbox, they're going to be way more likely to click if they've had a really excellent content experience with us right from the bat.
And if that first touch point is so humanized, I think that's such an important point. And I feel more talking with the retention team at Pilot House, like I know plain text emails were a bigger and bigger part of people's kind of arsenal this year. But I feel like it's like our defenses are so high for marketing and for being sold to, essentially, that like as soon as you see like HTML or see like fancy images or something, it's sort of like you can just categorize that, okay, this is a sales email versus a plain text email from the founder of this company. Like it's almost like it provides immunity to the rest of the emails by her saying, hey, we're going to send you XYZ. It just sets up each of those emails that even though they're maybe more sales focused or have higher polished elements, they still feel humanized because of the intro that you gave, Steph.
Exactly. And there's a fine balance, right? Like you don't want to do it too much. Like, they can't be like the main thing that you do. Otherwise it loses that like magical effect. But strategically placed plain text emails, not just in flows, but just overall in campaigns generally, have been so effective for us in so many different instances.
So if the bulk of your consumers are buying the set off the hop, what are the metrics? Like, what are you, obviously you're trying to drive clicks, you're trying to drive engagement, but in that 10-day welcome flow, what are your key metrics beyond those things? Are you looking to drive, like, are there other bigger sets that you're trying to sell? Like, what goes into that thinking?
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. We kind of just did a bit of an audit on the flow, and we're about to implement an email where we suggest items that our customers come back to purchase from us, and kind of framing it in that way where people come back for these things. Once you understand the magic of Anyday through our entry level, basically our everyday set, oftentimes people stock up on the dishes that they can't keep out of their dishwasher. And, there are items that we know that people come back for. And we are crafting an email to highlight that. But we're also putting kind of like a nice personal touch on it, where it's like our team recommends, this, that, and the other thing. And here's why each one you need in your kitchen. As like, now that you know the power of Anyday, you're in the club, basically. Here's how to level yourself up. But that's a great question, because like actually, despite not having much product in our onboarding flow at all, each one still drives revenue for us, which is absolutely nuts. The power of storytelling is people are more likely to click onto your site when there's a link and the story has resonated with them. And then in turn, it will actually drive sales for you, which is kind of nuts without even you trying. We actually have seen that in a new newsletter that we've been putting out every Sunday called Notes from the Test Kitchen, which is it's kind of like it's really a narrative style email that has literally no product in it, nothing. It has kind of, recommendations for what to cook this week, what we're excited about, some new things that we're trying in the test kitchen, some new discoveries that we've made because, we're kind of pioneering this space. And it still drives revenue, like a couple $1,000s every week for us. So that's really exciting to see.
Super cool. You also, Danielle, you had an example that I saw, I scoped on your LinkedIn that was from last year, but it was an example where you used a plain text email really strategically and it paid big dividends. Can you tell our listeners about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We sent a plain text email that made February one of our largest revenue months of the year without a sale, which is nuts, right? Everybody knows February is the worst time.
And we're all afraid of it too, right? We're all afeared of like what, right. Like we made our way through, we pulled a lot of revenue in Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but everyone's worried about the hangover in the new year, I feel like.
That's right. Your Black Friday leads have gone stale. Like February is like the doldrums of D2C. It's like the worst time. But what we did, it actually stemmed out of a kind of a challenging situation where we were finding ourselves, our margins getting slimmer and slimmer because of supply chain issues. And also, shipping issues and just everything that was happening in 2021, 22. And we were facing this challenge where we had to raise prices in a time where, people were already kind of feeling strapped. So we debated, what do we do about this? We have to do it. Do we just quietly do it? Do we send an email being like FYI? And we came up with this really great idea to actually kind of pull back the curtain and have Steph via plain text, email, and actually in a video on social explain the challenges we had been facing, point out that we are about to raise prices and why, and also offer our customers a chance to purchase the product at its original price before we raise the prices. So we told people, here's when we're going to raise the prices. You are a valued customer. We know that you love our product. We want to give you an opportunity to purchase it at a better price. So here's your opportunity to do so. This is when we're raising the price. People, first of all, went crazy buying Anyday, which was amazing. And we got so much incredible feedback from our comments on Instagram, the comments on in our Facebook community that we have. People directly replied to this plain text email saying, "Oh my God, thank you. Like, amazing that you are so transparent about your struggles and also giving us the opportunity to buy, Anyday at this price." So it was good in two ways, where we brought our audience closer to us by sharing a little vulnerability. And we also drove all this crazy revenue in a time where people are struggling to even hit their baseline.
You thought it was going to be bad news, and it was double good because you had to. So,
double good.
So does that mean you're going to do you have to raise your prices again in February? Is that the moral of the story? What's the plan for the new year?
Not a price increase.
Not a price increase. Okay, good. You heard it here first.
Well, I will say though, the takeaway from this is, in any business, you will have hard decisions. You'll have snafus. You'll have stuff that doesn't go right. And I think every one of those instances is an opportunity for marketing potentially. Look at it and say, how can we maybe humanize the brand a little bit with this challenge? How can we actually benefit the customer from this challenge? There's a lot of ways to look at these challenges and actually make it a positive thing for your business rather than a net negative thing.
The universe is just all about framing. The reality is just spinning around out there. So it's all about how you frame it that matters the most. So I fully understand that. Steph, I'm interested in the Meyer family. There are a whole bunch of complementary products, right? You guys are you're selling this microwave kit. Meyer has products for everything you'd ever want in the kitchen. Are there plans, or do you already do any cross-selling within any of the brands within Meyer?
We haven't explored that too much. A little bit. We've partnered with one of the newer brands in our portfolio. It's actually called Meyer. It's sort of in a beta launch right now. We've partnered with them on giveaways, on social posts and stuff like that. They're probably DNA, team culture DNA wise and customer DNA wise, most similar to Anyday. But it's something that we can and should look more into.
Very cool. And then what crushed this year? What did really well? First of all, how was your Black Friday, Cyber Monday compared to your expectations? And what would you say are some of the takeaways that you had about what worked well or maybe what didn't?
Totally. It actually, overall, Black Friday went well. We had a new channel this year. We launched on Amazon a few months ago. So that was a new thing. We were whoa, a fair bit of our revenue is actually coming from Amazon now, which opens up a whole new set of metrics and how do you attribute for paid ads and stuff like that I would say transparently we're still working through. But overall, it went really well. And I think that actually what resonated most over Black Friday is not dissimilar from all of the other topics that we've been talking about in this conversation. It's a lot of brands go out there with straight up, you send an email every day, you reiterate the fact that you have a sale. And it generally works. It generally performs well because people are just in that mindset, right? They're ready to buy, they're ready to purchase. But we tried a few new things too. We tried doing that humanizing thing. Like, for example, on our Thanksgiving, so day before Black Friday email, we highlighted every single team member of the team and like what they were going to cook in their any day. And it was actually very not sales focused. If anything, I was like, guys, we need to input more like sales messaging into this email. But it performed really, really well. And other emails in that campaign about like, and Dita, maybe you can share a little bit more about this, but like calling out specific people that you should get gifts for. And back to that point about like, what is the consumer going to feel and how is it going to benefit them and their lives? Those performed really well as well.
Gifting. I love that. The gifting angle is really smart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you love this product, bring it to someone else. Don't you think your sister should eat more broccoli?
Right.
That's exactly actually what it was. It was like, your grandpa, when was the last time he ate broccoli? 1987? You know, it's like kind of a funny tongue-in-cheek thing where we added a little humor. We kind of like thought about our USPs and brought them in that way through the type of person that somebody might have on their list. And actually that email it was our second highest performing email aside from our announcement of our Black Friday sale. And
that's super interesting. And it goes back to what you said about hiring writers, hiring people that have that. So you've got like a team of people that can that it's almost like the confidence too. I look back on all of the things that have stood out for us as an organization. And a lot of them have been when someone went out on a limb and did something that they thought was funny or creative, that like in too much in a committee of middle managers might get pushed to the bottom or wouldn't happen. But when you've got an organization that understands like these are the unique things that people connect to, the weird things you say are when you're willing to go out on a limb, like that's really where you make these connections, right?
Completely. And back to the editorial thing, it's those people, like you want to hire people that are very good storytellers. And in order to be a good storyteller, you also have to be able to resonate with the end consumer. So those people, especially editorial people, know what people want to click on and hear and write about, right? And so that message shines through. And by putting a spotlight on an individual person on the brand, I think so many positive things come out of that, not just on the results side, obviously, right? Like that's important, but it causes like the final consumer to be like, whoa. I mean, the word humanizing, we've said it a lot in this conversation already, but it causes that consumer to be like, whoa, this is actually like, there are real people behind this thing. And there's so many brands out there nowadays, especially so many D2C brands, and it's pretty challenging to stand out, right? It's like, what makes this brand different from this other one that looks and feels kind of in the same family, kind of in the same DNA? And ultimately, the answer is like, who are the people behind it? We try and spotlight that like as much as possible. Social, definitely. Email, definitely. And on the website too. Like we have this like little widget on the side of our, on a bunch of different pages on our site that has like my face, Danielle's face, and like, you know, our website designer Lily's face on like different product pages. She's like holding her daughter who's like demoing this product. You know, it's like literally it's our small team front and center.
Super smart. So we have a couple of our standard questions here. I'm curious, what is a part of your tech stack right now that you couldn't live without? What's a tool that you use that you'd want to shout out?
Notion powers Anyday. We just have the most incredible, seamless workflow because of trackers that we've built on Notion. It is by far kind of the most easy to use, intuitive, flexible tool, not just for kind of workflow purposes, but also for like, you know, brainstorming, organizing our own thoughts, keeping to-do lists, things like that. It's just really been, like canonical knowledge. It's really been an amazing tool that, you know, shout out to Steph for being kind of an early adopter of Notion, but I will never not use it, whether it's in my professional life or in my personal life.
What's a specific workflow that's been like particularly game changing? I like that you mentioned brainstorming. What would you zero in on as a particular workflow?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like the biggest example is our marketing calendar, which also can kind of flip into a Kanban board, which if you have ever used any other tool, you know that those two things can be very disconnected. Where, you can kind of have this very high level view of what is going live, when are things due, and then also being able to just click into a card and see all of the content that you need to know, both like the content that's going live and who's the driver, when's it due, what status is it, all that stuff. It is so amazing of a tool, and it's so easy to pick up, which I really like. It's kind of like Asana on steroids.
Shout out Notion. And then if we were to give you $100,000, it's gone up. It used to be 50, but now it's got to be, with inflation, it's got to be $100,000. But you have to plan to use it. You plan in December and you've got to execute in January. Where would you be spending if you had to do like a burst? Like where would you be spending with 100,000?
Steph, which one should we say?
Well, okay. The overarching thing that we think drives the biggest impact and what we're going to be putting a lot of focus on next year is, for lack of a better term, demoing the product in various ways. Like, we might try out, TV as a possibility. An infomercial might be a thing that sounds maybe crazy to a lot of people, but I've heard from quite a few others that is actually really impactful.
I like that. You need Jennifer Lawrence to reprise her role in Silver Linings Playbook, and you pay her to actually, because she was like the inventor. She was like big on infomercials in that movie. You get Jennifer Lawrence to demo. It might cost more than $100,000, but that could be really good. She's still relevant, right?
Yeah, maybe if you up it to 100 million.
100 million for Jennifer Lawrence? I don't know. She's,
who knows?
She's doing B-grade comedies now. I think you get, 150 grand and she's in. She might listen to the podcast, so she might just do it for fun because she loves microwave cookware.
That would be funny.
That would be sweet. So demoing the product in person.
It could be in person. It could also be on other channels where that favor a little bit more long form content. So for example, YouTube is one that we've been experimenting on. DW, you want to say a little more about YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been leaning into our YouTube content quite a bit, which has actually led to some really significant lift with our Google spend, with our YouTube paid advertising. So that has been pretty cool. But we've actually seen, also, if your listeners don't have a post-purchase survey, they need to implement one immediately, because that is kind of where you see all of your top of funnel come to, you can really measure what is actually driving a sale. A little, you get a good temperature for that. And YouTube is a really good example of something that, you can't really see, especially organic YouTube. You can't see direct attributable revenue from often. And we have seen it kind of float to the top since just, the past 3 months, where we've been posting regularly, both on shorts and on, full length YouTube videos. I would love to kind of just have every single recipe that we have, or at least our top performing recipes, in kind of just a demo format on YouTube. Just here's how you cook broccoli in the microwave, or here's how you cook David Chang's chawanmushi in the microwave. Just kind of like very simple recipe instructional videos that look beautiful but are just really straightforward.
Did you guys actually partner with David Chang and some of the? Have you partnered with any of these high-end chefs before, or was it just sort of a random thing?
Yes, we have.
Oh, cool.
Dave has been a huge supporter since pretty much day one, and has generally been pro microwave, per that like deep rabbit hole of internet research that we did when we first were pivoting to the microwave. And ever since he got his first sample, has basically told us that he's used it for every single meal in his house since that time.
Unreal. Also caught that, Steph, you call Danielle D-Dub, which sounds like a really cool interwork nickname. You called me Easy E if you like. Steph, are you just Steph because you have a one syllable name, or do you have any cool nicknames, or is it just Steph?
I'm just Steph.
You're Steph. What's a good syllable name so you don't even need it? Danielle is so. Is there another Danielle? So you had to go.
Danielle. No. It just that Danielle feels like slightly formal to me. Okay. So I'm just like, even in like the first, I feel like this happened in like the first 2 weeks of us know each other, right?
Like, yeah, you're
definitely.
I don't feel like Danielle feels quite right.
Funnily enough, actually, I've been D-Dub at almost every workplace I
didn't know until she told me that.
Organically, there's been somebody who's called me that, and it stuck. ever since. So it's funny that Steph kind of carries the torch on that weird tradition, but I love it.
I love it. Very cool. Well, if you want to connect with D-Dub about her storytelling or Steph about cookware, would people find you on LinkedIn? Do you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. Find us on LinkedIn and also follow Anyday on LinkedIn. Sometimes we do a little posting over there as well.
Very cool.
Or social. Hit us up on social.
And if you want to start eating more vegetables, like I think a lot of us in the new year, new you might want to do, you can go to cookanyday.com. I'm going to go to the office. I keep saying this. I'm going to raid. I know we have some Anyday cookware at the Pilot House office. Any quick shout outs for any of the team members that you're working with on the Pilot House side? They love that kind of thing.
Oh, we love our team at Pilot House. We've been working with you guys for
2 years.
Wow, that's insane. Really, the whole team. It would take a while to name everyone. But I'll do a particular shout out. Amar has grown our meta business from nothing to significant, and has been like core to that strategy piece, that overlaying of strategy that Danielle was talking about. And is always just in it with us. It's like thinking about what we can do to get better, proactively suggesting ideas. Kari, who runs Google, is doing the exact same thing. It's like I tell a lot of other founders about this and prospective Pilot House clients too, but the most critical piece of what Pilot House brings to the table is that like proactive strategy. They are on your team. We're in Slack together. We're slacking at 11 p.m. maybe later, like it feels, not just feels, but it really is like a very genuine relationship that we have with the team. And they feel not even like a partner, but a part of our team. And it feels that way because they're receptive to all ideas. They're receptive to feedback. We give real-time feedback. It feels just awesome.
Super cool. Well, thank you both for coming on the podcast today. We'll have to catch up again soon. And I hope to give us a reason in 2024 maybe to get together with an event or a meetup, because you two are a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for having us, Eric. This has been so fun, and it's such an honor to be on the pod. We're both big fans and listeners, and especially Danielle.
Love to hear it.
I'm a huge fan, Eric. It feels like I'm meeting a celebrity, so thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, it's the least I can do. Thank you both so much. This is great. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can do that right now at directtoconsumer, all one word, .co. I'm Eric Dyck, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.